So check this out. So you can kind of see I got my radiator support in here. You can see that stud right there and that one over there. Now those are actually the studs that the factory 2000 model radiator support mount on. So I was like, how cool would it be if that radiator support would just sit right in there behind it and I could kind of meld these two together like that. Well, I tried it and it's close. It won't quite go in there. It's real close, but here's why. So you got this piece of metal sticks out off of it right here. This kind of hits because that apron comes in at a bit of an angle across there. So I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna cut this little ear off on each side and see if this dude won't slide down in there behind it, because that will make it so easy to mark off where those aprons hit right here. So that then I can just punch some holes in it, plug weld it all the way down and build it all in, and then just cut the center section out of it. And then in theory, the radiator support will be pretty much done. So I'm gonna cut these tabs off and then we'll come back and see how it fits. Ooh, looking good so far. Well, I mean, it ain't gonna be perfect, but not right out the gate anyway. Oh, it's so close. Get in there. I got one side down. Booyaka! Okay, so technically it's in there. And I can see, let's see, I can see the areas that have got to get cut. Let me show you this. All right, so you see this part right here. This kind of protrudes out off the front of this radiator support that I'm using. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this old radiator support right here on both sides, right where this hits, because it looks like if I can cut that out enough all the way down through here, it looks like this guy will kind of lay right up against it like I'm wanting to. So I'm going to see if I can get that marked, because you see the rest of it doesn't look too bad. Looks like it might kind of lay up there like I don't know, maybe. We'll see. So I'm going to get to marking. I'm going to trim that out now. All right, so what I forgot to say before sticking this over in there is, off camera the other night, before I did all this a minute ago, I did go ahead, I made a fixed point on the body on both sides, and I was able to use a factory bolt location on both sides in the front and squared the front end up. I got it all moved around, got it squared up, got both fenders lined up the best that I could anyway. This side's been wrecked pretty decent. The fender's kind of buckled up, but it came out pretty good though. It's a, you know, it's an old milk truck, you know. I mean, and it's supposed to look a little raggedy. So anyhow, it's all squared up. That's why this little block of wood is sitting right here, because it's actually kind of holding it, because I don't have any way of bolting it in place just yet. So I know that the front end is square. Now I've got it marked right here, this section that I need to cut out. Now I'm going to have to cut it so low that I'm probably just going to go ahead and cut it off right here and just go ahead and get rid of this entire lower cross member right here on both sides. Now I don't think it will move, because I mean it's not made of much anyway. It's just barely kind of holding on there. This is all actually really strong right here. This whole piece across here is really sturdy. It should hold the fenders and everything in place. It doesn't have a lot of pressure pushing it in. I'm a little concerned that maybe the bottom might try to fold in a bit like that. So what I actually did is right here off of this factory bracket right here, I made a mark on the frame on each side. So if it tries to fold in any, that's going to let me know. That's going to let me know where I'm at. Plus, I mean, I can measure where the grill bolt holes are on either side and use that to help me square it up. So I'm just going to go ahead and just cut this thing out with it still in the truck, and we'll see where we wind up. All right, so inevitably, at some point, I'm going to tack the two radiator supports together, and I'm going to pull them out of the truck so I can finish doing all the work on them to kind of blend them all, meld them both together and make them into one. But for now, as you can see by the white lines that I've drawn on here, I'm going to go ahead and kind of try to start whittling it away a little bit. I'm going to try to take small bites at a time. That way I don't, cut out too much on it. But I'm going to go ahead and cut that out and open it up. Eventually, I'm going to have to cut this section out of the top because the radiator stuff, if I remember correctly, extends all the way up into right here. I'm going to have to go back and look at the pictures because it's been a year ago I took this thing apart. So if I can, I'm going to save this part because the hood latch and everything goes on to it. And it'd be really cool if I could use the factory hood latch. I'd like to not put hood pins on it, but I mean, if that's what I got to do, that's what I got to do. I mean, this would be kind of cool. But either way, the next step is, like I said, I'm going to whittle this down a little bit, kind of open it up so I can start seeing it, taking a look at it. But right now, I am super stoked because it is all sitting in there kind of exactly how I was hoping it would. And so far, things are going smoother than I had envisioned. So, fingers crossed. We'll see how we go from here. So I'm going to whittle this part out and then work on getting a game plan for what's next. All right, so you can see I got it cut out now, kind of whittled away so I can see my entire radiator support and kind of see how it all fits. Now what I did on the back side, I drew out some lines where it sits in place now because I was able to pull it up against the old radiator support where it actually fits pretty nice and flush now. So I kind of got a good idea of where everything's going to lay. The entire front end is squared up the way it needs to be. The height is good. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to unclamp it from where I've got it right now. You see I got these two big clamps on here. I'm going to unclamp it. I'm going to grind off the face of the radiator support here, and there's two bracket on the back side back here. I'm going to grind those off, throw a dust coated etch on them, that way they'll be protected. Then I'm going to fold this thing back forward, clamp it up, make sure everything measures out and shakes out where it's supposed to. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put a tack weld on the back side back here and tack the two together so they can't move. Then I'm actually going to cut away probably the majority of this right here of the old radiator support. Then I'm going to come back in with some new steel and I'm going to tie it in. I'm going to overlap it here. I'm going to come back, overlap it onto this radiator support where we'll plug weld it in place. Do that on both sides. Once I get that all done, then I'll be able to come back. I'm making a nice line right here, a nice clean line that opens me up to the bolts on this 2000 model radiator support. And I'll cut this 77 radiator support. I'll cut this main beam off of it because it'll be held in place by my two aprons. That'll be welded in place. Then I'll be able to take it out, finish working it in from the front and the back from there. I make some brackets and everything. When it comes time, I'll show you close-ups on all that, everything that I have to do. So for now, my next move is flip this guy back, do some grinding, get it all cleaned up, and get ready to put it back together. Once I get it cleaned up, then I'll kind of show you what we're working with. All right, so there's my 2000 model all ground off and cleaned up. So right here, that's the bracket I was telling you about that's on the back side that you really couldn't see because it was kind of obscured. You can still see this is the one that I had to cut off for clearance. I'll probably come back after the fact and kind of make a little bracket that wraps around right there. It's not really going to be a big deal because I'm going to attach this thing all the way up through there on each side and on the back side too. So, I mean, it ain't going to be going anywhere. So let's go over here to the truck, show you what we're working with here on the back side. So basically what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to cut out on this particular side. This is all kind of rusty and crappy. So I'm going to try to cut out as much of this crap as I can and come back and get into this good metal right here for me to weld to and go over to the front and tie it in there. Then on the back side, I'll come back in and then nice flat it gets here, plug weld it all in, plug weld it to the back side of the radiator support there. You can kind of see the line I've got right there. That's just kind of, for location purposes when I put it back in. Same on this other side here. You see the lines that I got made there. Just kind of for reference, when I put it back in, it should all sit back in there just where it goes. And then once I get it set over in there, like I said, I'm gonna make me a tack weld right up in here on the back on each side, because that's tying the two, the strongest part of the 77 cross member with the top and the good sturdy part of the 2000 model. I'll probably go ahead, you see this stud sticking up right here. That is the stud that sticks through the 2000 model radiator support. Those are the ones that hold it in place. I'll probably go ahead and throw the nuts on there, snug them up, then go ahead and put my tack welds on there to lock this thing all down. That way then, once I start cutting and trimming this stuff out, I don't have to worry about it moving until I can get it welded and all locked up. So next up, we'll throw this dude back in there. Well, there you have it. She's all bolted in. You can see right here where I went ahead, put me a little tiny weld there. I'll cruise over here to this other side. You see, I get me a little tiny weld there. She's bolted in nice and tight. Now I do want to step back and show you just how close these are to be so many years apart. Look at that overall shape right there along the top of that upper tie bar. That is wow. That is a 77 and a 2000 model truck, and those radiator supports are still that close in shape. I just think that's pretty damn cool right there. Now you can see on each side, you can see that the white chalk line that I've got drawn. Now that one right there, I'm gonna cut it last. The lower one that kind of goes, across and down, I'm gonna cut it first, and I'm gonna go all the way down. That way I can come back and put sheet metal over that. You see, I kind of got the same thing going on over here. I'm gonna cut that out. Once I get that cut out and get some sheet metal put on there and plug welded in place like I want to, then I'll come back with a Sawzall or something and cut that upper section of tie bar out and see what I'm gonna have to do to modify on that so I can still mount my hood latch and my lock support and everything to it. So let's start chewing away at this. There you go, y'all. I know it don't seem like a lot. It's the small victories along the way on a project like this that mean a whole lot. I know just, kind of getting these two radiator supports to fit together to a lot of you might not seem like much, but it was really kind of a weird deal. You don't know how it's going to work out till you really get into it. I had no idea how these two things were going to try to play nicely together, but so far, so good. Stay tuned. Come back for the next one. Cannot wait for you to see how this thing finishes out. It really turns out looking killer. Looks like it goes in there for the factory. It turned out great. Really appreciate everybody that likes or subscribes. Click the little bell so you get notifications. Thank you very much. Stay tuned. Come back for the next one.